Before my death, I used up the last of my strength to send Liu Ryan a breakup text. Finally, with great difficulty, Liu Ryan regained her freedom. Yet she wasn't as happy as I had imagined. The moment she was freed from me, Liu Ryan finally realized she had long been spoiled by me. Desperately, she tried to seek my forgiveness, personally shattering her own pride into dust. But this time, I would never return. It wasn't until after my death that I finally understood. Liu Ryan had never loved me. After a fierce argument with her, I stormed out the door. Not long after, I was in a car accident. At the very last moment before my consciousness faded, my mind was filled with Liu Ryan's words. Jibo, what will it take for you to finally let me go? Facing death, I suddenly realized that clinging to her was meaningless after all. With the last ounce of strength I had left, I sent her a breakup text. 7 years of entanglement came to an end. However, perhaps as punishment for my many sins, even after my death, fate refused to let me go, forcing me to witness how loving Liu Ryan and Jibo were together. Now that she was finally free of me, Liu Ryan neither knew nor cared that I had been in an accident. The day she received my breakup text, she threw away without hesitation every trace of me left in her home. While I was in the hospital fighting for my life, she welcomed Jibo back into her house. I watched as Liu Ryan's face showed a tenderness I had never seen before. My heart clenched into a tight knot. A dull, aching pain gnawed at me. In the midst of their affection, Jibo suddenly asked, "Why did Jibo suddenly let go? Did something happen to him?" My heart tightened, but Liu Ryan's expression only darkened. What could possibly happen to him? He and I are from two completely different worlds. He should have realized this long ago. He should stop clinging to me. At least, if we separate, let's do it with some dignity. At that moment, I felt that all these years of persistence had been nothing more than a joke. So I gave up. I would never entangle myself with her again. As expected, garbage will always love garbage. At least before Jibo moved in. That was what I had believed. However, reality seemed to have taken an unexpected turn. Even after finally getting rid of me and being with Jibo, Liu Ryan didn't look as happy as I had imagined. On the very first day Jibo moved in, the two of them had a big argument. The atmosphere was tense. Even I, as a soul, could feel the suffocating pressure, and the reason for their argument was simply because after I moved out, the decoration style of the new house. That's when I realized Liu Ryan had been spoiled by me all along. During the 7 years we were together, no matter what she wanted to do, I would silently support her, even if I was unhappy. For this, Liu Ryan often mocked me for being indecisive, saying I deserved to be an ordinary person. However, now, she had finally gotten together with Jibo. She had forgotten that Jibo, like her, was a genius admired by thousands. How could he, like me, endlessly indulge her without boundaries? Neither of them would back down. Just then, Jibo received a call from his studio. He slammed the door and left with a cold face, leaving Liu Ryan alone, sitting dazedly in the living room. In the end, Liu Ryan chose to step back. I watched as Liu Ryan, who had never entered a kitchen in the 7 years we were together, frantically tried to prepare dinner to please Jibo. A pang of bitterness filled my heart. Suddenly, Liu Ryan sharply covering her hand, which had been cut by the knife. With a panicked expression, she walked out. A shocking wound crossed Liu Ryan's hand. Had this been in the past, I would have been shocked and immediately rushed her to the hospital. Or rather, I would have never let such a thing happen. Liu Ryan's hand was for painting. She was a genius. Her hand should never be harmed. Clearly, Liu Ryan was also startled by the sudden accident. Instinctively, she shouted my name, then froze in place. The living room fell into silence. No one rushed to her side to put everything down and run to her. Liu Ryan gave a self-mocking smile, then coldly turned her face and grabbed the medicinal alcohol. This meal, in the end, never got made. Liu Ryan ordered takeout, waiting until almost dawn. Only then did Jibo lazily return. The food had long since gone cold. Liu Ryan lowered her head. Her slightly long bangs blocked her eyes, making it impossible to see her expression. However, having stayed by Liu Ryan's side for 7 years, I knew that the anger was silently brewing. Jibo, of course, couldn't see it. He looked somewhat stunned. He glanced at Liu Ryan. Why are you still sitting here? A tight feeling gripped my chest. If it were me in this situation, talking to Liu Ryan, she would definitely slam the door and leave, not returning for several days. But it was Jibo. As Liu Ryan's white moonlight, he had enough arrogant confidence. Liu Ryan's veins suddenly bulged, but her words remained gentle. I'm waiting for you to eat. Why didn't you answer the phone? Jibo furrowed his brows, unwilling to entangle with her over this matter. There's an art exhibition in Mountain City next week. I need to go. We've finally gotten together. Can't you push work aside for a while? Jibo stopped in his tracks. He quietly glanced at Liu Ryan. Liu Ryan's carefully prepared truce ended just like that. The two of them had another big fight, the tone even more intense than this morning. In the end, neither was willing to back down. Jibo suddenly yanked Liu Ryan's collar. Liu Ryan, you've really been spoiled. You think everyone will spoil you like Jibo? I have my own career. Love is just a seasoning in life. If you can't bear it, just break up. Go find Jibo now. Maybe it's not too late. Liu Ryan was completely stunned. In her eyes, a rare moment of confusion appeared. For a long time, she finally slumped her shoulders heavily, carefully wrapping her arms around Jibo. Don't mention him, please. I finally got rid of him. Maybe we've been apart too long. Jibo, give me a little more time. I'll get better. Jibo silently remained, but in the end, he didn't push her away. In their eyes, I was just a predator waiting for weakness. Even though they were together now, they still worried whether I might go mad again one day and break them up. I felt a little weary. They were really overthinking. I would never go back. After all, I was already dead. However, Liu Ryan's concession didn't help this hard-won relationship last any longer. They fought constantly, from trivial little things to creative matters. Things in the house were almost thrown everywhere. Jibo had his own pride. He couldn't care less about Liu Ryan, whether she was upset or not. After each big argument, he would slam the door and leave, letting Liu Ryan worrying alone. I watched. The person who couldn't even bring herself to say a harsh word, on the sofa drinking in silence. A heavy feeling weighed on my heart. The true emotional explosion happened on Liu Ryan's birthday. I didn't expect Jibo actually forgot Liu Ryan's birthday. Since the big argument between them the day before yesterday, Jibo went directly to a neighboring province for a conference. By the time Liu Ryan found out, he had already disappeared. This was the first birthday in 7 years that I hadn't been part of. I thought it would be her happiest birthday, with the person she loved by her side. No one to disturb her life anymore. But I never expected it would become her loneliest birthday. In the past years, I would always prepare a surprise for her a month in advance, though Liu Ryan never appreciated it. And on her birthday, she would deliberately stay out until very late. The lights in the living room wouldn't be on. Liu Ryan sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, drinking. The dim moonlight fell on her face, making it impossible to read her expression. Around 10 o'clock, Liu Ryan visibly became restless. She started to repeatedly check her phone. It seemed like she was waiting for someone's message. At first, I didn't know what she was waiting for until her gaze stopped for a long time on our chat window. I suddenly came to my senses. I gave a self-mocking smile, unable to describe the feeling in my heart. Liu Ryan, you can't be waiting for my birthday wish, can you? But I will never disturb you again. With no one to talk to, she slouched her back, staring silently at the screen, waiting for the person who would never send her a message again to talk to her. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Both of us froze in place. If I hadn't been standing right next to her, I would have truly thought that I was shamelessly approaching her again. To humiliate myself, Liu Ryan couldn't help but lift the corner of her lips. A trace of smugness flashed in her eyes. She let the doorbell ring for a while, before slowly getting up to open the door. I knew it was you. How is it you? Liu Ryan paused for a moment, her fingers resting on the doorknob, pulled back slightly in an unnatural way. Jibo raised an eyebrow. Who else could it be? I forgot my keys. Why are you so slow? Liu Ryan remained standing at the door for a long time before slowly closing it. She looked at Jibo sprawled on the sofa, resting with his eyes closed. A trace of mockery flashed in her eyes. Jibo, today is my birthday. Jibo looked a little dazed. He pulled out his phone and checked it for a long time. Only then did he awkwardly speak. Sorry, I've been busy negotiating a deal with President Lee. Things got a little mixed up. I'll take you out for dinner tomorrow. Liu Ryan seemed drained of strength. We are lovers, not business partners. Can you stop using your work tactics to brush me off? Jibo, of course, couldn't take such accusations. What do you mean by brushing you off? I didn't forget on purpose. We're adults. Can you stop being so unreasonable? You forgot. Then why could Jibo remember? Do you not love me as much as he did? The air fell into a dead silence. Liu Ryan only then realized, belatedly, that she had said the wrong thing. She clenched her fist and punched the wall in frustration. Jibo looked at her coldly. Liu Ryan, you, more than anyone, should know. Jibo was probably the person who loved you the most in this world. If you didn't cherish him, then why are you still clinging to the kindness he gave you? A trace of sadness flickered in her eyes. I thought we could go back to the past, but the person you are now only makes people feel suffocated. Let's break up. The lock clicked shut. In the vast apartment, Liu Ryan was left alone once again. I watched her curl up on the sofa. A dull ache settled in my chest. Liu Ryan, is this the true love you wanted to pursue? No one answered my question. Liu Ryan remained staring at her phone in a daze until the clock struck midnight, until the last bit of battery on her phone ran out. Only then did her gaze finally leave the chat window. That would never receive a reply again. She muttered to herself, Jibo, are you really not going to talk to me anymore? My heart twisted sharply. Yes, Liu Ryan, I won't talk to you anymore. You are free now. 2 weeks after getting together with Jibo, Liu Ryan broke up with him. After sending him away, she darkened her expression and sent me a message asking where I was. If it were before receiving a message from Liu Ryan first, I would have been overwhelmed with joy, no matter what I was doing. Liu Ryan seemed certain I would be the same as usual. After sending the message, she turned off the screen immediately, waiting to wake up and be bombarded by my messages. What she didn't know was she would never receive my messages again. When she gradually woke up, she instinctively reached for her phone. But on the chat screen, there was only gossip about Jibo moving out. No other messages. Liu Ryan stared in disbelief. She refreshed the screen several times. Only then did she finally believe I really hadn't replied to her. But that's also true. Now I'm just a wandering soul. How could I possibly reply to her messages? She called me several times, but no one answered. Liu Ryan visibly became agitated. With the mechanical female voice on her phone, she suddenly smashed the phone, but she quickly came to her senses. In a panic, she picked up the phone. The screen was shattered into pieces, no matter how she tried. There was no response. For Liu Ryan now, the phone was probably the cheapest thing on her. If it broke, she would just throw it away. But she rushed to the repair shop late that night. The technician looked at her with a puzzled expression. "Young lady, you shouldn't be lacking money, right? This phone must be quite old. Why not just replace it with a new one? It would be more cost-effective." Liu Ryan pressed her lips together, saying nothing. The technician, thinking for a moment, couldn't help but tease her. "Is there something important inside?" Liu Ryan awkwardly turned her face away. After a while, she muttered a response. Just a slight hum, as if acknowledging him. When Liu Ryan finally got her phone back, she let out a sigh of relief. She opened the chat window, checked that the data was still there. Only then did the tension in her brow relax. She squatted on the street and called me several more times. Finally, in frustration, she confirmed. I really wouldn't answer her calls anymore. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, she hurriedly opened her contacts. "Little G, please have Jibo to pick up the phone. I need to talk to him." My brother Cold Ting replied. "Liu Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, you two have already broken up, right?" Liu Ryan's tone carried a trace of urgency and pleading that she herself didn't even notice. "I never really cared. Jibo wanted to break up. Have him say it to my face." My brother remained silent for a long time, his voice trembling uncontrollably. "He won't come looking for you again." It was only after my death that I realized perhaps Liu Ryan did care about me, even if just a little. When I was alive, my brother couldn't stand Liu Ryan. Whenever the two met, they would constantly mock each other. Now that I was dead, my brother no longer had to care about my feelings. When Liu Ryan came looking for her, asking about me, she had the bodyguards throw her out. It was the first time I saw such a cunning Liu Ryan. That day, it was pouring rain. Liu Ryan stood straight in the rain, waiting the entire afternoon. She kept glancing toward the company entrance, as if at any moment, that fool would run back to her side, with a face full of concern, asking her, "Why aren't you taking care of yourself?" And then foolishly forgetting everything that had happened and going home with her. But unfortunately, this time, no matter how long she waited, she would never see the person who used to shield her from the rain again. Every time someone came out of the company, Liu Ryan would look up hopefully until the last light went out. The sparkle in her eyes slowly faded. My brother looked down at her from above, his gaze full of mockery. "Liu Ryan, who are you pretending for?" Liu Ryan's steps became unsteady. Under my brother's constant mockery, her face grew paler. Yet from start to finish, she didn't say a word in rebuttal. She just clenched her fists. When my brother had finally had enough of mocking she finally spoke. Her tone was filled with a humbling and pleading quality unnoticed by her. "Little G, can you let me meet with Boda? This is between us. Boda definitely doesn't want you to interfere too much." My brother's eyes were bloodshot. A faint shimmer of tears flashed in his eyes. His response to Liu Ryan was a merciless punch from my brother. Liu Ryan, caught off guard, was knocked down by the punch and slammed hard onto the ground. She licked the blood from the corner of her mouth, letting out a self-mocking laugh. "Little G, go ahead, hit me. But once you're done venting, could you let Boda go?" My brother couldn't care less about what Liu Ryan said. The barrage of punches kept raining down on Liu Ryan until someone nearby realized that he really intended to go too far. Only then did they hurry to separate the two of them. My brother, not caring about his blood-covered hands, wiped them harshly, trying to hold back the tears that were about to spill. He couldn't help but laugh out loud, but in his voice, there was a tremor and a swallowed sob. Ruyan seemed to realize something. Dragging her injured body, she slowly crawled in front of my brother, clutching desperately at his pants. My brother grabbed her hair. Ruyan, no one can stop me now. He doesn't want you anymore. He's disgusted by you. He'll never come back. Are you satisfied now? The last trace of light in Ruyan's eyes faded away. She was left lying in the rain, collapsing into a pool of her own blood. Like a homeless stray dog, an umbrella suddenly appeared over her head. Ruyan froze for a moment. Straining all her strength, she climbed up. Boulder, I was wrong, but it was just a passerby. Seeing Ruyan struggle like that, he was scared and stepped back several paces. Ruyan stared blankly. Only then did she belatedly realize that no one would hold an umbrella for her again. After Ruyan was sent to the hospital, her mental state was never very good. During this time, Jibo visited her several times. She couldn't accept it. From once being the proud daughter of the heavens, to becoming what she was now. Unable to stop herself, she slapped her twice. But Ruyan seemed to feel no pain at all. Her hollow gaze fell on Jibo. Boda really doesn't want me anymore. What should I do? Jibo, frustrated, grabbed her collar. If you regret it, then figure out how to make it right. Lying here like a dead dog. What can you change? Ruyan, I really misjudged you. I don't know which of Jibo's words triggered something in Ruyan. She really started to improve slowly. That night, she secretly pulled out her phone and went home directly. I watched her carefully touch my bedroom door. Wait for me. After that day, Ruyan almost didn't leave at all, locking herself in the art studio every night. When she was hungry, she would eat a few bites of takeout. Only when she was truly exhausted would she go to my room to nap for a while. Not even a few days passed before her body gave in. She developed a high fever. Ruyan seemed to be delirious from the fever. She wouldn't take any medicine. Instead, she curled up on my bed, constantly scrolling through our chat history. Boda, I feel so bad. Can you come back and see me? I miss you so much. I listened, a lump rising in my throat. Ruyan, I'm right here beside you. But you can't be this cruel. How could you only realize my worth after I'm gone? I can never come back. And just like that, days passed in turmoil. Ruyan, carefully and reverently, carried her finished work into the living room. But when I saw what she had painted, all I felt was mockery, bitterness, and helplessness, tearing at my very soul. For the first time, Ruyan had painted me. When I was alive, I had begged her countless times to draw a portrait of me. But every request ended with her ridicule. She was a genius. Why would she waste her talent on something so utterly devoid of artistic value? If that were the case, then why did she secretly paint so many portraits of Jibo in the alleyways? Back then, her eyes were filled with scorn. Jibo is art. Painting someone like you would only make people lose interest. Jiboda, why humiliate yourself? And now, finally, she had drawn what I always wanted. But I was already dead, and I no longer cared. With solemn reverence, Ruyan traced her fingers across the painted figure, her eyes softening like never before. Wait for me, I'll bring you back. After finishing the painting, Ruyan seemed slightly more at ease than before. She collapsed onto the sofa, eyes closed. The only sound in the room was the voice of a news anchor on the television. I felt myself freeze in place. The news broadcast was reporting on the injuries from the car accident that took my life. Ruyan listened with her eyes half closed. Her whole body began to tremble uncontrollably, locked onto a barely noticeable spot in the footage, as if desperately trying to confirm whether she had seen wrong. She pressed herself closer and closer to the screen, but no matter how much she wanted to deny it, the truth would not change. A broken bracelet lay on the ground, shattered into pieces. That was the couple's bracelet I had stubbornly insisted on buying for us. Even though the day after I bought them, Ryan had carelessly tossed hers into a forgotten corner. I had never been able to bring myself to take mine off, and now it lay there abandoned like me. Ryan sat frozen on the floor, her expression utterly lost. No, impossible. This can't be happening. She suddenly stood up, but after days of sleepless nights, her body swayed, and she collapsed straight onto the ground. Blood immediately began to flow in torrents, but she didn't seem to care at all. Staggering, she got to her feet, carefully wrapped the painting, and made her way toward the G family home. I had imagined countless scenarios of how she might learn about my death, perhaps long after she and Jibo were together. One day, by chance, she'd find out that the clingy, shameless person who always hung around her was gone. Maybe she'd think that justice had been served, that I had it coming, and that it was all my own fault. Then she'd finally breathe a sigh of relief and live a happy life with for the rest of her days. Or maybe she'd still hold on to a tiny bit of affection between us and sigh in passing. But no matter the scenario, in my understanding of her, she would never shed a single tear for my death. But now, she knelt at the G family's door, begging my family to let her see me one last time. This Ryan was no longer the proud genius I remembered from my memories. She knelt in the rain, using every last bit of her strength to shield the painting from the downpour. But the rain was relentless. No matter how hard she tried, she could only watch as the painting slowly became soaked. I wanted to tell her to leave. I had already let her go. She should go live the life she wanted now, but she couldn't hear me. She kept stubbornly waiting for someone who would never appear again. Finally, after a long time, the G family's door slowly opened. Ryan's eyes brightened for a moment, but when she saw who came out, the light in her eyes slowly dimmed again. My brother looked down at her from above, quietly watching this figure kneeling in the rain. She didn't get angry. Her gaze was filled with nothing but sorrow. Ryan stared at him intensely, trying to catch even the faintest hint, but without a doubt, she failed. Little G, she said, can you let Boda come out to see me? I promise I won't do anything. I just want to see him from a distance. I'm really worried about him. My brother laughed full of irony. Ryan, my brother loved you so much. But how did you treat him? For 7 whole years. He spent the best years of his youth on you. And all he got in return was your mocking. Now he's gone. He set you free. So what right do you have to come here pretending to care? Ryan's pupils contracted. It took her a long time to find her voice again. What do you mean, he's gone? My brother looked at her with a trace of pity. And with that, he sentenced her completely. Ryan, my brother had a car accident the same day you brought Jibo home, after I died. Ryan suddenly acted like she was in love with me. After hearing the news of my death, she numbly wandered home, curled up in my bedroom and slept for a long time. When she woke up, she kept dialing the number that would never connect again. She told me she knew she was wrong. She begged me not to leave her behind, but we both knew I would never forgive her, like I had in the past. She began drowning herself in alcohol until her stomach bled, collapsing unconscious in her home. If Jibo hadn't happened to check on her, she probably would have come to join me. But when she woke up, her condition didn't improve at all. This time, no matter how hard Jibo hit her, or how much he cursed her, she gave no reaction at all. Jibo sat by her bedside, fuming. What the hell is wrong with you? You were always the most talented one among us. How could you ruin yourself like this? Ryan's gaze flickered. A low, self-deprecating laugh rumbled in her throat. Oda used to say the same thing. He said I was a genius. But he was wrong. I was the dumbest one all along. 7 years. And I still couldn't even see my own heart. I was too stupid. That's why he didn't want me anymore. No one could persuade her now. Whenever Ryan was awake, she would reread our old messages. Listen over and over to the voice recordings I had sent her. She tried to find my pictures. But back then, she hated me so much. She would never have allowed anything like that to remain on her phone. Until suddenly, something struck her mind. She ripped the phone from her arm and rushed straight toward the door. Jibo, entering at that moment, stopped her and slapped her hard across the face. Ryan, are you insane? Ryan gripped his shoulders tightly. Her strength was so intense that Jibo winced in pain and cursed under his breath. He had intended to hit her again, but when he saw her tear-filled eyes and that utterly lost expression, his hand fell weakly to his side. Ryan's voice was frantic. She choked on her words, coughing uncontrollably. Jibo, have you ever seen the graduation photo I left in the living room? Jibo's eyes shifted away. It took him a long time before he spoke. Ryan, those things. The day we moved in, you threw them all away. The stiff smile on Ryan's face completely disappeared. She released Jibo and silently walked out. Where are you going? Ryan tugged at the corner of her mouth. I'm going to find those things. If Boda comes back, he'll be so sad if he finds everything gone. Jibo's face instantly turned grim. He paled, his expression filled with terror. As he looked in the direction Ryan had gone. She's gone mad. She's really gone mad. Not only Jibo. Even I felt that Ryan had lost her mind. She knew better than anyone that I would never come back. I followed Ryan, and it was already the third recycling station, but it had been so long. How could those things possibly be found? But Ryan still refused to give up. Dragging her feverish body, she walked on, one step heavy, one step light. Suddenly, her foot slipped, and she fell forward, sliding down the hillside. Her head struck a sharp rock. My pupils contracted sharply, and instinctively, I called out her name. The next second, I saw Ryan open her eyes in disbelief, her gaze slowly fixing on the place where my soul resided. Her expression immediately came to life. She couldn't help but laugh, but her tears fell heavily to the ground. She thought I was by her side, but her injuries were too severe. She could only struggle to tilt her head, looking at me. Did you come to take me? My feelings were extremely complicated until now that I truly believed Ryan did care about me, but at this least love came too late. 7 whole years, my heart full of love, had long since been worn down. What remained was probably just my stubborn belief that she didn't really like me at all. However, that stubbornness had already quietly faded. The moment I died, I silently watched her. Ryan, I've set you free. Go live your own life. I no longer love you. The moment I said that, I felt the pressure I had carried as a soul slowly vanish. I saw the look in Ryan's eyes turn into pure terror. She desperately crawled toward me. Looking down, she saw her own soul slowly dissolving. Boda, no! Please don't leave me. I smiled, finally at peace. I knelt down and, for the last time, touched her brow and eyes. Goodbye, Senior. My life was painfully short. Looking back hurriedly, most of my memories were occupied by Ryan. Ever since I was little, I had liked her. From the day I met her, she had always been the genius everyone talked about. She carried a light of her own, That made people gravitate toward her. Even if they got burned time and time again, they still rushed forward recklessly just to be a little closer to her. I chose to study art, something I had no talent for. After putting in all my effort, I finally stood in front of her. She glanced down at my painting, then frowned with evident distaste. "This school! Do they let just anyone in now?" She gave me a once-over, then spoke as if she had suddenly realized something. "Classmate, your family must be well off, right? If you have this much energy to waste, why not spend it on something else? You're not suited for this." Hearing the hidden meaning in her words, my face flushed red instantly, and my words stumbled out clumsily. "Senior." I didn't, but she had no intention of arguing with me. Disappointed, she turned and left. From that moment on, I knew Liu Ryan was a true genius. No matter how hard I tried, I would never be able to keep up with her. So I buried my feelings deep inside, only daring to admire her from afar. But fate, strangely enough, gave me a chance. At the time, almost everyone in our department knew that Liu Ryan liked Mei Jibo. Before I arrived, Liu Ryan had confessed to Mei Jibo many times, but for some unknown reason, even though Mei Jibo clearly had feelings for Liu Ryan, he never accepted her pursuit. Liu Ryan was a goddess among men. How could she tolerate such humiliation? After her final rejection, she never approached Mei Jibo again. Back then, I thought I finally had a chance, so I tried desperately to get close to her. It wasn't long before the entire school knew that Liu Ryan had a little follower. Someone teased her, "Your little follower is here again. Aren't you going to see him?" Surrounded by admirers, she arched an eyebrow at me, looking me up and down. "I heard you like me." My face flushed crimson instantly, and I could no longer hear anything the world was saying. I just nodded dumbly. Liu Ryan smiled. At that time, I didn't understand what that meant. Looking back now, she must have been mocking my ignorance. I was confused, and somehow became Liu Ryan's boyfriend. No one expected that Liu Ryan would end up with me, but I knew clearly Liu Ryan didn't truly like me. She just used me as a decoy to make Mei Jibo jealous, hoping that he would soften. But even so, I treasured this opportunity dearly. In order to learn art, I had a big falling out with my family. During my studies, my family cut off all my financial support. So not long after getting together with Liu Ryan, she noticed I wasn't some rich young master. She looked at me, pinching every penny, saving money to buy art supplies. She couldn't help but mock me. "Can't tell, you're quite vain. I don't need these things. With this time, you should be thinking about how to improve your terrible skills. I really don't know why you came to this place." I stood there awkwardly, fighting bad tears. And so, our strange relationship lasted for 3 years. Until the business deal, Liu Ryan still hadn't gotten Mei Jibo to soften. Her attitude toward me changed. A year later, by that time, I had reconciled with my family and had enough financial stability to support her in pursuing her dreams. I thought everything was finally moving in the right direction, but I never expected what I got instead was an even more disgusted look from Liu Ryan. That night, I went to pick up a drunken Liu Ryan and overheard her friend teasing her. Mei Jibo and Jibo are from completely different worlds. Do you really expect him to be as sweet as Jibo? I'd say, even though Jibo is a bit foolish, he has money. He could be supported. Why aren't you happy? Liu Ryan glared at her, grabbed the bottle of alcohol and smashed it against her head. I couldn't control myself and screamed loudly. When I looked up again, I saw Liu Ryan looking at me with a cold expression. That night, we had an argument like never before. Jibo, you don't really think that finding someone like that will convince me, do you? Being supported, without you clinging to me, I could live 1,000 times better than I do now. My heart ached, beating with relentless pain. It turned out that in Liu Ryan's eyes, my love was just a shackle that confined her, a blemish on her perfect life. But at that time, I still stubbornly refused to let go. I'd rather torment myself in this unequal relationship until all my passion was drained. I lowered my head and gave in. I no longer interfered with her life, even though I was her so-called boyfriend. I didn't dare ask where she was going. Looking back now, I realize I was a joke. I never expected that I would still be alive. Even though my whole body ached with excruciating pain, I was certain I was still alive, still breathing. My brother walked in, looking exhausted. The moment he met my gaze, he froze and let the water kettle crash onto himself. He told me many things, saying that I almost didn't wake up, that our parents aged years in one night, and about what Liu Ryan had been doing during this time. Of course, I knew what Liu Ryan had done, but maybe, since I had already died once, hearing Liu Ryan's name again made my heart twitch slightly, but then it quickly returned to calm. That's when I remembered that in my final moments, Liu Ryan was still injured, lying in the suburbs. I thought for a long time, and still couldn't resist asking, "Is she okay?" My brother's expression turned angry. Bro, don't let her confuse you again. She only learned to cherish after losing you. Once you go back, she definitely go back to her old ways. I forced a smile. No, not anymore. We've broken up. I lowered my head for a moment. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to say that. He gently patted my palm, his tone subdued. That's good. You've been through too much all these years. You're too tired. It was a long time before. He spoke again. During this time, Liu Ryan, she really made a mess of herself. But after some time, she be fine. She's just gone a bit crazy. He didn't finish his sentence. But outside the door, frantic footsteps could be heard. I could hear someone talking about cutting wrists or something. My brother lowered his head. He stood there for a while, as if finally making a decision. Liu Ryan's in this hospital. If you want to go, I can push you to see her. I recall what happened recently. In the end, I nodded slightly. Some things should be properly solved now. It was only when I met Liu Ryan that I understood what my brother meant when he said her mind wasn't in a good state. I saw for myself what it looked like. She was being held down firmly on the bed by several medical staff. A shocking red mark was left on her wrist. It seemed she noticed someone was watching her from the window. Liu Ryan's gaze shifted slightly. When she saw me, her entire being calmed down. She whispered my name softly, her eyes shimmering with tears. As the people in the room slowly began to disperse, my brother pushed me through the door. Liu Ryan's gaze stuck tightly to me, as if fearing that the next second I would disappear again, just like before. Is it really you? I didn't say a word, just smiled at her. Liu Ryan, you've lost weight. You've finally gained your freedom. You should live the life you want now. Liu Ryan kept shaking her head, tears soaking the pillow. I was wrong, Boater. I can't live without you. Please come back. Didn't you always want me to draw for you? From now on, I'll only draw for you. How about it? Before I could speak, my brother couldn't help but snap at her. Liu Ryan, do you really think too highly of yourself? You always think you're above everyone. My brother is just an average person, not worthy of you. But ask yourself, these years, if it weren't for my brother secretly helping with your talent, how much food would you be able to get? Liu Ryan, what you think of as valuable in the G family's eyes is actually nothing. I interrupted my brother's words. Enough! Liu Ryan, we've misunderstood each other for so many years. It's time to get back on the right track. You're right. I was never suited for art. I've been reckless for so many years. It's time to give up. I unbuttoned one by one. Liu Ryan tightly held onto the sleeve of my shirt. After my wounds heal, I might go abroad. The next time we meet, it might be many years later. In the days that follow, take good care of yourself. Don't keep ending up in the hospital for no reason. Liu Ryan desperately shook her head, trying to reach out to grab me. But no matter how hard she tried, she ended up missing. Seeing her about to fall from the bed, I sighed. Liu Ryan, didn't you say that at least you should leave with some dignity? As if remembering something, her face slowly turned pale. And in the end, she couldn't lift her head anymore. She begged me to come back. In the blink of an eye, many years had passed. Over the years, I slowly integrated into the core of the company, began to build my own projects, and life was slowly improving. Today is my wedding day. My wife and I were brought together by our parents. And after years of love, we had both become accustomed to each other's presence. Entering the hall of marriage was almost a natural progression. On the wedding day, I received a painting from across the ocean. The painting was called Pilgrimage. It had intense, vibrant colors, as if it absorbed all the passionate emotions of the world. My wife glanced at it curiously. The painting was good, truly the work of a rare genius. My heart skipped a beat as a figure long forgotten slowly emerged from the depths of my memory. My wife couldn't help but glance at me a few. I snapped out of my trance, forced a smile, and told someone to take the painting away. It's nothing. Let's go. At that moment, I thought, Liu Ryan must be doing well. Maybe she had already fulfilled her dreams from her student days, becoming a famous painter. That painting, along with the other pieces in the collection, was stored in some corner. Until one day, years later, when I was chatting with a friend from home, he casually mentioned Liu Ryan. It's really a shame, he said. Back in school, she was the most talented, and several teachers had high hopes for her. But then she got into a car accident and passed away early. I was momentarily dazed. What did you say? You didn't know? Liu Ryan is gone. I couldn't process any more of his chatter. I was walking aimlessly, as if by fate. I saw that painting again. The painting, now lost without care, had colors that were no longer as vibrant as before. My eyes lingered on the painting, and suddenly a small line of text at the bottom caught my full attention. It read, Liu Ryan's lifetime, F 1987 to 2017. The year I got married.